I'm Jamie Adams, and I've been getting to the root of my woodland aggression.
I'm Sam Maggs, and after last episode's brainstorm chat, I've had a serious clean out of my games, and I'm feeling good about it.
And I'm Iain McAllister, and I finally surfaced from the depths of Subnautica. And this is Brainwaves, bringing you the best in board game and tabletop gaming news. And these are the headlines for the week of the 4th of February 2019. Tabletop gaming did really well on Kickstarter this year. Dobble is the biggest selling card game of 2018. And the new board game that everyone's talking about, Our Guys in Salisbury. All this and more on this week's Brainwaves.
And we're diving straight in with mentioning Kickstarter. Of course, we can't go an episode without mentioning it. Turns out... There we go. Thank you, Sam.
It's the Kickstarter bell.
Sam's been at too many gigs this week. He just talks in guitar riffs.
Yeah. It's fine. Listen to this. How you doing, Sam? Fantastic. Getting back to Kickstarter. Tabletop gaming category on Kickstarter was at an all-time high last year of over $200 million. According to data provided to the website Polygon by Kickstarter. There has been nearly a 20% increase in the funds raised during successful tabletop projects this year. $27.23 million, 19.8% increase compared to 2017. Whereas the video game category, however, has been doing slightly less well. It declined $1.45 million, an 8% decrease compared to 2017. In 2018 as a total, $165 million was raised for tabletop games. That's compared to $15.8 million to video game Kickstarters. And on average, a successful video game campaign on Kickstarter earned $44,886.36, whereas a successful tabletop game campaign earned on average $70,603.33.
Those are some big statistics. I think it's maybe because what we're seeing from like the computer game Kickstarters is we're seeing still sort of lots of indie studios using Kickstarter to back their projects. We're not seeing really people like Blizzard or Activision coming and funding their games on Kickstarter. Whereas the board game community, it's very much the big boys are coming to Kickstarter now to fund projects. It's not just small independents.
The biggest games in video games come from your big publishers who have that money, whereas the biggest games in board games, for some reason, are coming. Dobble! It's now sold over 1 million units since its release way back in 2011.
That's a lot of units.
It's basically becoming Asmodee's flagship game in a weird way that it isn't even pushed as that. It's just this great selling card game. We're all big fans.
Always see it being played at conventions a lot. People just having it in their bag, little tiny tin. It's great. I've loved it.
I've brought it to several situations where, if I've had a couple of minutes, like a rehearsal for a show, I've just kind of gone, someone want to play a quick game, and we've had people just yelling at each other, I can't see anything! And these are grown-ups. It really is
that kind of perfect thing, isn't it? That it's for any ages. You will get frustrated no matter who you are, how old you are. It doesn't matter. This kind of is for everyone. So it's, if people don't know, it's a very, very simple card game, essentially advanced Snap, really. There's 5 games in the deck. It costs... This is probably why it's the biggest selling game. It costs just over £10, about 12 quid, I think, for a copy of Dobble.
Quite often at conventions you'll see people selling like stacks high of 10 out of 10 at a time, and they just go. Because the other thing with Dobble is that it does get quite smushed up. You will probably need another copy at some point. It's worth noting that with Dobble selling like that we sometimes see a lot of like sort of dismissiveness of like sort of smaller games, casual games, and that kind of thing. And we're going to come back to this later in this episode, but we have to be really mindful that for a lot of companies, these smaller games that just sell over and over again, have that long tail, are real profit earners for them, and we shouldn't be dismissive of that kind of thing at all.
Yeah, no, Double's a great game. Please, I say please check it out as if we're going to earn anything from that. Go and check out Dobble.
Asmodee, if you'd like to get in touch, you know where we are.
Yeah.
Talking about things happening on the streets of the country, we will no doubt all be aware of the horrible attacks that happened in Salisbury last year. Well, 2 guys in Russia have decided to somehow try to draw attention away from it by producing a board game about the attacks called Our Guys in Salisbury, the Novichok board game. The Novichok attack board game, you can get. There are 5,000 copies out there in the wild if you want to go and seek one down.
In the wild, you can just...
In the
they're
wild?
just littered around Europe.
You can hunt them
Yeah,
with
yeah,
You
yeah.
have to go and
Pokeballs.
find them.
A Russian toy maker has released a board game called Our Guys in Salisbury, featuring the same cities in Europe visited by the supposed GRU agents accused of carrying out last year's nerve agent attack in Salisbury. It looks extremely simplistic.
It's just a roll and move, really, isn't it?
It looks like a roll and move game. They've apparently printed about 5,000 copies of it.
Also, if you're interested, I hope you can speak Russian.
When it first came out, people actually thought it was a Photoshop, basically, like it was fake. But apparently, this is a real thing that exists. Mikhail Bober, who came up with the idea for the game, said, "In some way, this was an idea of our answer to Western media. Enough already. To us, it's not funny anymore. It's sad. This needs to stop." Not quite sure how you draw attention away from a supposed Russian agent attack by making a board game for it and then advertising it. But there you go.
If you've been listening to Brainwaves for a long time, first of all, hello there. Thank you for listening. But way back in one of our very first episodes, I believe it was actually the first episode we put out, we had a little sketch about the game Fog of Love.
Thank you. Please. No, thank you. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Please. Thank you. Good morning, and as ever, a big welcome to the Kara Mijao show.
Oh yeah, I forgot we'd done that.
Yes, thank you, Ian. It's a game that me and Sam love a great deal. It was probably my game of last year. Put that out there. And now there's been a great new announcement that there's going to be a sequel game. Fog of Love, Midlife Crisis. And the tagline, 1 couple, 1 crisis, 4 players. All we've got right now is a bit of placeholder artwork. Thanks to the sleuths at Shut Up and Sit Down, we've found a bit more information about what the game may be. Similar to the first game in Fog of Love, 2 players will represent each side of a couple. However, 2 additional players will each represent the unexplored aspect of each of these people. So you'll be playing as yourself, but next to you will be the unexplored part of yourself. And how's that going to happen in middle age and midlife crisis? No word yet on when it's going to be released. However, the prototype will be playable at Fastava 2019, which I believe is the Danish board gaming convention and for developers, and is very cool.
And that's in April this year.
That is in April, thank you, Sam. Also, there is hints of a third game in the series about the relationships of people at the very end of their lives. That sounds lovely.
I think this is really interesting. Coming back to, like, last year we were talking about the Billy Kerr game.
Yes.
And things like that, where it's a lot more kind of serious themes through interactive. You know, a few years back, video gaming had That Dragon Cancer, which was a storytelling, interactive experience more than a game. And I think we're getting that now in physical games, you know, and I think that's a really interesting thing that's happening. And if Fog of Love does turn into a trilogy of games, that's really interesting, and I think that could be really cool. And I'd like to see more of that kind of thing come from the industry as well. More
Tackling more interesting, sort of more mature themes.
And going in a different direction with gaming, more than just gaming for fun's sake. You know, actually exploring themes and talking about things that in new, interesting ways. Talking about new, interesting things, Roll and Writes. I don't know if that's anything you guys have ever heard of.
He's a great designer.
He is.
He's been very
he's done
prolific,
another
at least.
one, apparently.
Has he?
Yeah, he's now working for Days of Wonder.
Yeah.
No,
Gets about the place.
obviously we jest, because that could genuinely confuse people. Who knows? This is a board gaming genre. Roll and write. Essentially Yahtzee, really. Roll some dice or draw some cards, look at the results, jot something down on a piece of paper, tick something off a score sheet. It's very popular recently with games like Railroad Inc., Welcome to, kind of taking the industry by storm for whatever reason. listen to our Idle Thoughts sister podcast if you want to know our thoughts on those kind of things. But Days of Wonder, one of my favourite companies, are jumping on that bandwagon with Corinth, a roll and write set in ancient Greece, 4th century BC. It sees people rolling dice and jotting down on their pads to require resources and deliver goods to and from the market. It looks kind of typical of this kind of thing in a way. I don't know.
When you say typical, what do you mean?
It doesn't look like it's doing anything much new, to be honest. It looks very nice. It being a Days of Wonder game, artwork's lovely. I'm sure component quality is going to be great. But yeah, if it's cheap enough, essentially we are looking at a pack of D6 and a load of paper. So, hey, that could be a low cost.
Low barrier to entry.
I'll potentially buy it and give it a go. It says 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 4 players.
Yeah, I haven't played any of these yet. I am quite intrigued though. Just today there was a game announced called Era Medieval Age, which is Matt Leacock's new game, and it is being described as a roll and build game.
Yeah.
And you're rolling dice to generate resources, and then building a little sort of city on a board, a little sort of peg board, and it looks really lovely. I'm quite intrigued by that idea, especially if it's a sort of short playing kind of civ builder. I'd definitely be up for that.
One of my annoyances with something like Welcome To was that there wasn't much play interaction. Something I've spoken to you guys just separately about, and I'll chat more about in Idle Thoughts. Corinth seems to be doing something a little bit different there. So when you roll the dice, each player in an order gets to choose one or some of those dice from the pool to then remove, so other players can't take those choices. So there is a bit of a gotcha element to it, which is obviously opening up the player interaction and a bit more strategic there. We'll see where it goes, really. I'd be looking at getting this purely because it's Days of Wonder, and hey, I like their games and like giving them a go. Yeah, we'll see.
Just to say, Corinth is coming to us via the brain of Sébastien Pochon, who is better known to some people as the designer of a game called Jaipur. It's a 2-player game which I know Sam very much enjoys. And also he's one of the co-designers on Jamaica, which is a pirate racing game which is possibly my favourite game. And this is seen as a bit of a reworking of one of his previous projects called, I'm going to hopefully pronounce this right, Ispahan.
And should be coming in March for those of us in Europe. So, not too long.
And happening right now is the launch of Tabletop Scotland 2019 tickets. That is happening through in Perth. We will be there. I will be there running the playtest zone. I'm pretty sure Sam and Jamie will be there just playing games and making nuisances of themselves.
I'm going to be doing the best I can this time.
Yeah, you should be coming along. It's going to be doubling in size pretty much in terms of like the sort of play space and trader space. They've got a lot of traders on board already, and it was really, really, really good fun last year. Really well run con, and we're really looking forward to going back and hope to see some of you there. Check out their site. Links in the show notes. Well, guys, you know that I've been having a great time under the waves of Subnautica over the Christmas period. I've just finished that game off, and it's absolutely fantastic. I'll be talking about that more in the Idle Thoughts podcast that is coming out very, very soon. But I will thankfully be going back under the sea in a board game way because there's a new Captain Sonar expansion coming out, which might mean that my Captain Sonar does not go the way of sales and getting cleared out. I was going to sell it, but with a new campaign coming, I might actually retain it. So this is going to be a new sort of legacy-style campaign by the sounds of it. In search of rare minerals, the crews are going to dive to never-before-seen depths where the laws of physics reach their limits. In Operation Dragon campaign mode, teams can play 7 consecutive missions on ever-new nautical charts, using expert characters with abilities exclusive to them to make it through this adventure. Also comes with a custom pack toolbox that contains 4 new modules for the submarine, new options to vary your gaming experience, such as Armada mode, don't know what that means, new second stations and new mechanic stations. All sounds good, just sort of additions to Captain Sonar. You don't know what Captain Sonar is, it's basically battleships on steroids. Effectively, it's just 2 crews, each crew in a submarine. There's like a captain, there's a sonar operator, there's a mechanic, and something else I forget.
It's one of the podcast's favourite games.
Yeah,
yes.
And you're sort of shouting instructions across each other, but trying to listen to the other team and trying to pilot a submarine without hitting rocks or ice or various other things. Great fun, and it all happens in real time.
Yes.
I'd love to find the time to do this.
Yep.
This sounds so good.
What's worth
Captain
saying
Sonar
is,
genuinely has been some of my favourite gaming experiences.
Yeah, I might actually keep mine.
I do feel it needs 8 players to be full
yeah.
Captain
Yeah,
Sonar.
for
We've tried
everyone-
it with 6 and it hasn't been the same.
for listeners, that's the big barrier that stopped Ian and me from playing it a lot more, is that you can play
really
the game
needs
with
the 8
you can
players.
play the game with 2 to 6 or 7, which are fine, but the kind of
wants
optimum
8.
way to play is 8 because the submarine needs a team of 4 to operate it.
It always feels like it's lacking with less than 8 people. Yeah, and this kind of thing just sounds like exactly what it needs, really, isn't it? Like, it's good on its own and it's fun to do that, but if you added a story element to that and then like started having a proper ongoing story rivalry between the 2 teams, this would make for one of the best games ever.
I don't know if a legacy effect, but I think it is what will happen is during the campaign, the effect of one match will affect what happens to the next match, not so much tearing up submarines or character boards or something like that. But I'm very excited. Similar to what these guys, I think I played Ian's copy of Captain Sonar and I immediately went to go and buy mine.
I think it was one of the first game we all played together, actually.
It was. But also, Ian, something that is also new on Board Game Geek, isn't there a guild for the giant brain and brainwaves?
We've got a new guild on BGG. I'll be linking that in the show notes. I'll be putting it up on my Twitter and Facebook feed as well. Go there, join in with conversations on there. We'll be posting up when the podcast goes out. Discussions about the brainstorm topics, all sorts of stuff. We really want you guys to get involved. So yeah, please come along, join in the guild, and we'll see you on there. A couple of weeks ago, I put up an article about growth in the hobby, and this was sort of in response to a lot of concerns I was seeing amongst the critical community about the number of games coming out, the quality of games, and just sort of what I thought was a bit of hand-wringing amongst the critical community of like maybe games aren't as good as they used to be. And what we'd like to talk about on Brainstorming Day is that there's a rise in the gamer population, that's for sure. We can see it in the convention attendance, we can see it in just sort of general sort of board gaming revenue. There's the hobby's getting a broader appeal through YouTube, through Twitch, things like that. That's all broadening the appeal of the hobby. And we're seeing we see people like very dismissive of sort of maybe like sort of more casual games like Dobble we were talking about earlier on in the cast, like sort of the sort of games we would describe as gateway games. But what we'd like to talk about is how we as a community welcome more people into the hobby and how we avoid any kind of gatekeeping, any sort of like saying this game's not good enough or that game's not good enough. How do we go about that as a community? What do you think, guys?
We
don't think anything, obviously.
No, sorry.
We have no opinion on this hobby.
On
this topic.
It's because I usually jump in first, and I wanted to let Sam do it.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to go for it.
Okay. Oh, you waiting for me to jump in? Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we should just cut it there and say that's a brainstorm over. No opinion on this.
Oh well.
This week we have no
Jesus.
opinions.
There's always going to be games that the individual likes or the individual doesn't like, and that's of course down to personal preference, which everyone is absolutely entitled to. However, I think when it comes to, as you said, the gatekeeping element of going, oh, this game, I mean, this is just a gateway game. And the use of the phrase gateway game, and by gateway game, we mean, a game that may not be as complex as some others and is, let's say, a very good bridge between the more common board games, your Risks, your Monopolies, your Cluedos, and the wider, let's say, board gaming hobby that has taken off in the past, say, about 10 years or so. And a good example for me would be something like King of Tokyo from Yellow or Jamaica from GameWorks.
I'm a big fan of Lords of Vegas as that kind of game because it's a really interesting, dynamic game.
Again,
people to sort of the interesting things in the hobby.
And again, it's all about personal preference.
Jamie doesn't like Lords of Vegas.
I'm not a huge fan of it. But the use of the phrase gateway game in a pejorative sense is detrimental to the individual, and I think it's detrimental to the hobby and getting more people involved.
And sometimes the game in question as well, that if you're saying, it almost degrades a game in a way to make it seem oversimple or childish or whatever, that actually some of the best games are the best games because of how simple they are. We were talking about Dobble earlier. that's a game that can be played by 5-year-olds, or it can be played by 50-year-olds, and everyone will have a good time. Like, it's a fantastic game. It can be extremely strategic and competitive, and you'll get angry at people, and it'll be fun. Like, Jamie was talking about Jamie was talking about King of Tokyo there. Something, again, which is very cartoony and kid-friendly, graphically and thematically. But I love that game so much. And yeah, I would play it with newcomers to the hobby, but I'd also play it gladly with people who play Twilight Struggle regularly or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, King of Tokyo hits my table quite regularly because it's such a great little sort of filler game, and some of the best game days I've had is with you guys as well as my regular group have involved lots of sort of shorter experiences, and I think the hobby in general is a little dismissive towards games that may be like seen as shorter and sort of lesser experiences, even though they're not. They're a more focused experience.
Well, hold on a sec. I don't know about the community in general. I think all generalizations are dangerous, including this one. I think it's a vocal minority who are going, we must only play, these ones are the games that must, worth playing. And again, it's all personal preference, but it's just going, I don't like this, therefore I think you guys shouldn't like this. And that's just down to people just being people. Now, just before the recording started, I had a little rant at both these guys. I'm basically going, please don't tell me what I should think a gateway gamer is or what I think an appropriate game is. It's down to me what I believe an appropriate game is for the time of day, the individuals that I'm playing with, and the circumstances surrounding all of that. If I think that King of Tokyo is a good game to start and might be interesting to get them into the hobby, and they like monsters, fantastic. If they don't like monsters, I might go to something like Jamaica. If they don't like that, I might have Rhino here or something like that. We've all got ideas of what is a good game to get people interested in the community, and I realise it's turning into another rant about gatekeeping, and I'm going to stop.
People who are very, very vocal about this kind of thing, people who sort of are a little reluctant to see the widening of the hobby, to see a more diverse population in the hobby, I think they are always going to be buying games. You're not going to turn them away. They board gaming or computer gaming or whatever is their thing, and they are going to keep doing it. They're going to keep buying stuff. You're not going to turn them away from the hobby by saying, "Well, that's fine. You've got your stuff, but how about these people?" You're not going to alienate them at all. They'll get angry and they'll get louder, but yeah, you're not going to alienate them.
And when you start going, we should start banning people who think about this and think like this, and only talk about, we should only be playing these kind of games. We're basically doing what they're doing, and is gatekeeping going, we don't want you guys here. And
we want to welcome everyone. Like, the hobby is about bringing people around the table to play games together, and we just need to be careful as more experienced gamers, and as people who are like involved in the community and a voice for the community. We all need to be careful about what we say on social media and how we come across. And I've seen it a bit recently where people are like really concerned about people maybe not playing a game multiple times, that kind of thing. Like the hobby is getting more temporary, like people are like buying games and only playing them a couple of times and then maybe selling them on, and that being a worrying thing. But that's just how those people interact with games. There's certainly games in my collection that I've maybe only played a couple of times and they're getting sold on because I've only ever played them a couple of times. That's fine.
I think the important thing we would like to stress, especially if you are listening to this for the first time, and you're interested about board games in a wider sense, is that the community as a whole. I can't speak for these boys, but my experience of the community as a whole is overall very positive.
Mine too.
I hate people.
I mean, that's
So,
that. We keep Sam around as
I'm exactly the kind of person we're talking about.
We keep it around as the counterpoint to many of our arguments. Many people are very
Sam's
welcoming.
just a tech guy, really.
Yeah, people are very welcoming. People are always happy to share ideas and new games and some fantastic experiences of playing against people that we don't know. But of course, like everything every kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Every hobby, there is going to be people who maybe like it in a certain way and have issues with a growing popularity. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stigmatize them. I'm just going to say it's everyone's hobby. If they want to join in, please don't act like you're the keepers of the flame. And even as Iain said, we're experienced gamers. By that we just mean we've got some in our collection. We've played a lot in a concentrated time over a short space of time. Sometimes it's good to pull our heads out the sand and have someone go, here's a reality check. This is what the community is, in a more objective stance.
But we were new to this once too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, it wouldn't really be a Brainwaves outro, would it? Without everybody's favourite. I love the fact, as a prerequisite to this piece of news, neither me or Jamie found this.
And usually we do.
Iain found this, saying, well, I thought you guys would want to do a bit of Monopoly news.
Well, I was right.
Of course you're
here
right.
it is. For the what? It's got to be 5th show in a row now?
Oh, about the 4th or 5th show. So we have had...
It's getting dangerous.
We have had, your Monopoly Download Rock Festival. We've had Monopoly Scout. We have Monopoly Pizza. We have had Monopoly Cash Gun. And Sam, now what do we have? The thing that we have all been waiting for.
We've waited so long for this. Hasbro have apparently waited 10 years for this. We've been waiting longer. It's a Monopoly movie.
Oh, Monopoly movie.
Why are you both saying that like you're Mario?
I'm saying it more like Howard Moon from the
As
Mighty
I said
Boosh.
it, I noticed that, and it was in no way intentional.
I was saying it more like Howard Moon from the
Sorry,
Mighty
carry
Boosh,
on.
but that's just me.
Anyway, we've got a Monopoly film. Mr. Monopoly, presumably, is being played by Kevin Hart.
No.
Kevin Hart is on board along with the
Yes,
director Tim Story, who directed him in Ride Along a Night School.
And in both of those films, he played Mr. Monopoly.
in all
So
of
it only...
Are you thinking it's like some kind of like third part in a series or something?
Yes.
I think you might be wrong.
We don't know what's going to happen. However, there are stories that in an earlier script that was commissioned for a Monopoly film, it was about a boy from Baltic Avenue, which was a square in the US version of Monopoly. The original US version of Monopoly is set in, I believe, Atlantic City, New Jersey. So all the streets are named after places there, whereas in the in the UK version, it's places in London.
Look, guys. None of this Monopoly news is going to matter because the robots are coming for us. Yes, it's true. Robots have conquered the world of chess. They have conquered the world of StarCraft. But now, most importantly, they have conquered the world of Jenga. Yes, that's right. A robot can now play Jenga. This is actually a fairly interesting step forward in robotics because one of the things that robots are really, really bad at is sort of minor motor skill. And like this is actually a really good example of a robot that can do very sort of minor pressure-sensitive motor skill by pulling Jenga blocks out because the tower is different every time because pressures are different. The robot has to try and understand that, and it's really interesting. We'll put a link to the Guardian article in the show notes. But yeah, the robots are coming for us, and they're going to beat us at games.
God help us all. God help us all.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank our executive producers, the Lucky Sparrow Gaming Cafe, fantastic folks who have donated to our Patreon. And we are now only $1 away from our first goal, which will make the podcast and website basically self-sustaining. So if you are liking what you're listening to, then please do sign up to our Patreon. For $1 a month, you will get an extended version of this cast, which includes more of us babbling on about games. And for $2 a month, you can also get access to our sister show, Idle Thoughts, which is about myself, Jamie, and Sam talking about the games we're playing.
I think it's worth noting that the extended cast isn't just necessarily extended. There's entire news articles that we cut from this show because we want to keep it at a good, reasonable length. So there's like a bunch of other stuff in that cast. So check it out.
Thanks very much for listening. If you like what you've listened to, then the best way to help us out is to just share the podcast around on social media. Drop us a review and rating on iTunes if you can as well. That really, really helps out. You can also follow us around on Twitter at The Giant Brain. We're on Instagram at Giant Brain UK. Facebook, just search The Giant Brain. You'll find us there. Our website is giantbrain.co.uk, and you can email us about anything in the show or anything you'd like us to cover. Please share your news, share your ideas for brainstorms with us at giantbrainuk@gmail.com. Thanks very much for listening.